You know that feeling,
Yeah.
right? When you set a goal, maybe it's eating healthier or being more patient or maybe just getting through that massive to-do list and then you fall short.
Oh, absolutely.
And that little voice inside your head, it can be really harsh, can it? Like this tiny, nonstop critic just living there.
Mm-hmm. It's a very, very common human experience. And that feeling, that's really our jumping off point today.
Yeah, exactly. That inner voice.
Yeah.
It might feel like it's trying to, motivate us or something.
But often it comes from these really deep, ingrained patterns, beliefs we picked up somewhere.
Right. So we've been digging into some really interesting ideas about how to maybe overcome these conditioned beliefs we have around love and self-worth, things like that.
Mm.
Think of this deep dive as trying to understand why that inner critic is just so loud sometimes.
And crucially, what we can actually do about it, like practical steps.
Yes. What steps can we take to quiet it down a bit? So our mission here is really to pull out some actionable insights for you, things you can try on how to cultivate maybe a bit more self-compassion.
Find more inner peace, even when you feel like, you didn't quite hit the mark you set for yourself.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's unpack this. One of the really central ideas we found in our sources is that for a lot of us, maybe most of us, the way we experienced love and acceptance growing up, well, it wasn't always unconditional.
No, it often came with strings attached, rules, sometimes unspoken.
Exactly. Like unspoken rules. Things like, okay, if I achieve this specific thing, then I'm worthy. Or maybe if I act this certain way, then people will love me.
And we sort of absorb this, like an internal rule book for our own value, often without even realizing it.
Yeah, completely unconsciously.
Mhm.
And so what happens then when we inevitably mess up or don't meet those conditions we've set?
Well, that creates this real internal clash, doesn't it? What psychologists call cognitive dissonance.
Right. That really uncomfortable feeling when you hold two conflicting ideas like, I have to be perfect to be loved, and then, oh, I just wasn't perfect.
It's like a glitch in our internal logic, as you said, and this is where it gets really fascinating. Our sources suggest that our brains, which are fundamentally wired for survival,
Yeah, survival first.
they can actually resist unconditional love and self-acceptance. It's almost paradoxical.
How so?
Well, if our early life taught us that love is something you have to earn, something conditional,
Okay.
then love or acceptance that's just freely given, it feels wrong, unfamiliar, maybe even a bit suspicious or unsafe on some deep level.
Huh. So your brain's trying to protect you from something that feels off, even if that thing is acceptance.
Potentially, yes. And think about how that resistance might show up in our behavior.
Okay.
Instead of taking that harsh judgment fully inward, which, let's face it, can be incredibly painful, debilitating even.
Yeah, crushing.
We might sort of deflect it outwards. We might find ourselves blaming other people or our circumstances. It's not my fault, it's...
Or just bad luck. Feeling like a victim of fate.
Exactly. Why do you think we do that? What's the payoff?
It feels like it's maybe about control.
Mm-hmm.
Or the illusion of control.
Tell me more.
Like, if it's someone else's fault or just random bad luck,
Yeah.
then maybe I can still figure out the right way to act, the right conditions to meet, and then I'll finally get that acceptance I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. It avoids confronting the possibility that acceptance might just be available now, regardless.
Which feels unsettling if you're not used to it.
Precisely. It's almost like a defense mechanism, right? Protecting us from challenging those deeply held beliefs about whether we're fundamentally worthy or not.
Okay, wow. So this is deep stuff. How do we even begin to, untangle this wiring?
Well, this is where our sources introduce a really interesting technique. It's called the toch method.
The toch-methode.
Yeah, toch, T-O-C-H. It's a Dutch word. It means something like yet, or still, or even so.
Yet or still.
Okay. The core idea of this method is about changing how we relate to ourselves, specifically in those moments when we feel we've failed or fallen short somehow.
Right. And the key thing here, from what I understand, isn't about, pretending the mistake didn't happen or trying to be perfect all the time.
No, not at all. It's not about whitewashing or aiming for flawlessness. It's about transforming that inner conversation, that narrative.
Okay. How does it work in practice?
It's actually quite simple in its structure.
Yeah.
The examples from the source material are great because they're so everyday, like this one. Even though I found blue prettier than yellow, yet I love myself and accept myself as I am.
Huh. Okay, that's simpler than I expected. Blue versus yellow.
Or how about this? Even though I snacked more than I intended, yet I love myself and accept myself as I am. It seems almost too simple, right?
It really does. Makes you think, okay, can saying something like that really change anything? Deep down.
Well, let's think about the brain for a second. Neuroplasticity.
Right. The brain can change.
So, when you consciously acknowledge the thing, you judge yourself for the preference, the overeating, whatever it is, and then you immediately follow it with, yet I love myself and accept myself as I am.
You're linking those two ideas together.
Exactly. You're creating a new connection, a new neural pathway. It's like forging a new path in a dense forest. The first few times, it's hard work.
Yeah, you have to push through the undergrowth.
But the more you walk that path, the more you repeat that statement, pairing the flaw with acceptance, the clearer and stronger that pathway becomes.
So you're literally training your brain to respond differently, with compassion instead of, like, immediate self-attack.
That's the idea. You're shifting from self-punishment to self-compassion and eventually maybe even self-trust.
We have some more examples here that they really show the range. Like, even though I wanted to be kinder to X today and was quite harsh, yet I love myself and accept myself as I am.
Or, even though I said something hurtful when I intended to be kinder, yet I love myself and accept myself as I am.
So it's really about acknowledging what happened, the action, but not letting that single action define your entire worth.
That's such a key distinction. You're separating the behavior from your fundamental value as a person. Here's another good one. Even though I still eat unhealthy food while I kind of force myself to eat healthily, yet I love myself and accept myself as I am.
That one hits on that internal conflict, doesn't it? That feeling of wanting one thing but doing another.
Exactly. And it addresses it without adding another layer of self-criticism on top.
And it works for smaller things too, like insecurities.
Yeah, like this one. Even though I am afraid of spiders and think this is weak of me, yet I love myself and accept myself as I am.
Okay, so it's about applying that acceptance to, well, everything. Even the parts of ourselves we don't really like or feel proud of.
That seems to be the goal, extending that blanket of acceptance, as you put it. And what's really interesting is the effect this shift is proposed to have. When you deliberately move from self-punishment towards self-compassion, the theory is that you actually create a sense of internal safety.
Safety, how so?
Well, if you're not constantly under attack from your own inner critic, you start to feel more secure within yourself.
Right.
There's less internal warfare going on.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Less fighting inside.
And from that foundation of safety, that's where genuine growth can actually start to happen.
Wait, that sounds backward, almost. Counterintuitive.
How do you mean?
Well, you'd think that being really tough on yourself, really critical, would be the best way to motivate change. Like, I messed up, I need to be harder on myself so I don't do it again.
Right, that's the common assumption. But what the source material suggests is that it's actually letting go of the shame and the guilt. That's what creates the space for real integrity, for authenticity, for being gentler, both with yourself and, by extension, with others.
So the harshness keeps us stuck, but the compassion allows us to move forward.
That's the hypothesis. Any positive changes in behavior then become almost a natural byproduct of this inner shift.
Ah, okay. So the goal isn't necessarily, I must stop snacking, but rather, I must stop hating myself for snacking.
Precisely. The primary objective isn't fixing the behavior through force, but dismantling that resistance to self-love by actively being loving towards yourself, imperfections and all.
Okay, let me just clarify this, because it's important. This isn't about saying, oh, it's fine, I'll just keep doing things that aren't good for me or that hurt others. It's not an excuse, right?
Absolutely not. It's crucial to understand that distinction. It's not about condoning or excusing actions we genuinely want to change.
It's more about changing the relationship you have with yourself about those actions. Removing the destructive self-judgment.
Exactly. It's about tackling that internal judge that keeps us stuck in that loop of shame, blame, maybe making the same mistake again because we feel so bad about ourselves. It's about creating the internal conditions for growth from a place of acceptance, not fear.
Got it. Okay. So this toch-methode, it sounds powerful, but how do we actually make it stick? How do we integrate it?
Well, our sources are very clear on this. It takes practice. Consistent effort, repetition.
It's not a one-and-done kind of thing.
Definitely not. It's framed as a kind of spiritual, psychological re-education. You're actively retraining your brain.
Like learning a new skill or maybe a new language.
That's a great analogy. You wouldn't expect to be fluent in French after one lesson, would you?
No, definitely not.
It requires showing up, doing the reps, Consciously interrupting those old automatic patterns of self-criticism.
And deliberately inserting these yet statements instead.
Over and over.
And does this primarily change just how we feel inside?
Mm-hmm.
Or does it have outward effects too?
The sources strongly suggest it ripples outwards.
Right.
This growing self-acceptance, this inner shift, it starts to influence how we see the world.
How we interact with others.
Absolutely. When you cultivate more inner peace, more security within yourself, that naturally changes your external interactions. You might find yourself less reactive.
More understanding, maybe. Less likely to project your own stuff onto other people.
Exactly. Less judgment all around, starting with yourself. It fosters a sense of relaxation, of safety that you carry with you.
So it's like each time you consciously practice this, even if it feels a bit awkward at first, you're planting a little seed. A seed for more inner freedom.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And over time, with consistent watering, those seeds start to grow, to blossom.
It's a gradual process, but a potentially transformative one. Rewiring our brains, and maybe, as you said, our hearts too. Okay, so let's try and bring this all together then. The main takeaway here seems to be the incredible, maybe often overlooked, power of unconditional self-acceptance.
Yes. And this touch method, this yet technique, offers a very practical, very accessible way to start cultivating that, a starting point.
And just to circle back on that really crucial point, this isn't about giving ourselves a free pass for behavior we want to change.
No, it's about changing the internal environment first, shifting from self-criticism and shame to self-compassion.
So that real, lasting growth can actually happen from a healthier place. From self-kindness, not self-hatred.
Precisely.
Okay, so here's something for you, the listener, to maybe mull over as you go about your day. Think about one specific area, just one, where you tend to put conditions on your own self-acceptance.
Where does that inner critic get particularly loud?
Maybe it's around a habit you have, or a mistake you made in the past that still makes you cringe, or maybe even just a part of your personality you wish were different.
Find that one thing.
And then just consider this. How might it feel to consciously apply this touch method right there, to acknowledge that thing even though I did X or even though I feel Y, and then immediately deliberately add, yet I love myself and accept myself as I am?
How might that shift your perspective? How might it change how you feel about yourself, right, in that specific tricky situation?
It's a simple tool, deceptively simple perhaps, but it holds the potential for a really significant shift, a shift in your inner world.